Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of the Old Men Magic podcast. It is Sunday, May 7th, 2023. Thank you for joining us for an hour of casual cardboard conversation. If you would like to support us, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. These things are free, but Alex, I've heard they help the channel a lot. They help us grow. Today, we're going to discuss a cycle of creature enchantments from the expansion set Scourge. We're going to chat about some MTG market moves that interested us over the past week and more. But first, we have some follow-ups to last week's episode.
Oh.
Alex, I have a follow-up that I wanted to start with, and it was about Lightning Bolt.
Zap.
I did a little bit of reading about the history of Lightning Bolt. We went over this a little bit last episode, but I was shocked when I was looking through the printings of Lightning Bolt. I thought that Lightning Bolt was just a staple in Magic the Gathering in every format, always. But that's not the case. I forgot that it isn't regularly reprinted. And I think I did learn this when I first came back to Magic like a year and a half ago, and then it just was erased from my brain.
This happens.
In my mind, it's a staple of every single core set. It was printed in core sets through 4th edition, which is when we stopped playing. 4th, we started and revised, pretty much stopped after 4th. But then it wasn't printed again until Magic 2010 and 2011.
Oh, okay.
Since then, it's reappeared several times in supplemental sets, compilation sets, but never again in standard. So it's not in standard at all.
I had the impression that they mostly replaced it, but I thought maybe it had popped in and out a couple times. I wasn't sure.
Just that 2010, 2011 reappearance, and that seemed to surprise people because I think they have been saying at that point that they weren't going to reintroduce it in standard. It's been replaced in standard by Shock and probably 1,000 other lower powered spells that I don't yet know about. Shock is just a 1 red, does 2 damage to target creature or player.
Okay.
So it's a neutered Lightning Bolt.
I know back in our time they were replacing it mostly with Incinerate. I think seemed to be the direction they were going.
Yeah. And I think there's other spells like that too that have been.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some that are better than Incinerate.
Really? Two.
Maybe. I don't know. See, now I'm in over my head.
Okay. Yeah, let's not talk about it. There's probably things that are 1 colorless, 1 red, do 3 damage, and then they also have some sort of kicker or buyback or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's stay focused, Alex.
Okay.
Lightning Bolt is the topic. I'm shocked to see that it was removed from standard, essentially, from the time we stopped playing.
This is maybe one example of power creep, the opposite. What's the opposite of power creep? Power receding.
That's why I think it's weird when they're this spell is too powerful for the format now. It's unhealthy to have such a powerful cheap spell for red. I don't know. I don't know the reason for really why they've decided to remove it from standard. I read a little bit about it, and some people are it limits the design space for creatures because people tend not to play creatures if it's boltable. Well, I mean, that's not entirely true because I play all sorts of creatures that are boltable. Yeah, that is a filter that I apply. I say, is this boltable?
For sure. But yeah, it doesn't mean you don't play boltable creatures ever.
Doesn't mean you don't play the birds.
And I can see, it's a very good card. Lightning Bolt's great. And I could see how it could be sort of on the other end too, stifling deck construction a little bit because it's an auto include, and it makes
there
deck ideas less diverse. And people are always going to splash red in maybe for it. But I don't know, you can kind of make that argument about just whatever is the best card in the format at the moment, right? Whatever, if you take a good card and replace it with something slightly less good, but still viable, people are going to use that.
I get it.
So
there will always be a powerful card and that people will always splash for. And I wonder if so you watch old school, people splash blue in all the time. Even if they're not playing a blue deck, but they splash it for Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, sometimes Time Twister.
Makes sense. Yeah,
You'll also see people splash black in just to play Demonic Tutor and Mind Twist.
Yep.
The cards that I've named so far, other than Demonic Tutor, which we'll get to in a second, generally not reprinted. I don't think that Mind Twist is probably a big part of the game at the moment. I don't see people talk about Mind Twist anymore. It may
Yeah,
have.
I don't think so. I want to see when it's been reprinted because I think it has been reprinted. But Mind Twist is an interesting one because it, for a minute, was like banned because it was considered like way too good.
Mhm.
Let's see, fourth edition.
There's a whole sorts of different old school formats that people play too, like little homebrew formats. They have different groups. They decide to play or not play specific cards, and a lot of the times I'll see people saying, "Oh, the rules we're playing under are no Mind Twist." I think they call it gentleman's rules or something. I think it's like no Mind Twist, no strip mine,
All right.
no Library of Alexandria, something like that.
Gentleman's rules, no Mind Twist. That sounds right because it's. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, it was a restricted card.
Yeah.
For a while, you could only have one in your deck, and then they banned it completely for a while. It's in let's see, Amonkhet Invocations.
Okay, so one of those goofy sets.
And that seems to be Masters Edition 3. I think that's an online set. So after 4th edition, it looks like just in Amonkhet. Kind of a cool picture. Look that one up for a second. It's kind of a cool picture. I know you don't like the borders on that set.
So yeah, essentially they've removed it from Magic if it's just an Amonkhet.
I mean,
which
it's
it is
pretty strong and not too, clever. It's pretty direct.
It's not clever at all, yeah. I get it.
Neither is Fireball, so but pretty devastating. It's not fun to be mind twisted for 4,
Oh yeah, that is pretty neat.
Yeah, I like that spirit. Like,
just got to get this in a different frame.
Yeah,
that isn't terrible. I'm sure some people love these. They must love them, or else they wouldn't all be so friggin' expensive.
I like a lot of the arts, and some of them I don't mind the frame on. Like, it looks okay together, but I do agree that sometimes it's burdensome and it doesn't look too much like a Magic card.
Yeah. It's also going to stick out like a sore thumb unless you're a multi-billionaire and you can afford to put together.
It's not going to.
Which that seems silly, I know, but there is something that bothers me, like about the aesthetics of a deck. Like I kind of want, when I'm flipping through a 60 card deck, sometimes I put together decks. I'm like, I hate the way these cards look together when I'm flipping through it. It bothers me.
Yeah.
And I have to like get different versions of the cards so they like look nice together when I'm flipping through the deck. I don't know. I'm mentally ill, as a lot of Magic collectors and players are. But I could not have an Amonkhet card in my deck. It would just, when I got to it, it would drive me crazy because it looks so different from everything else.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't include it for the same reason. It would just like, I'd be happy I owned it at first, but then I'd be like, I don't know. I'm not sure I really want this in here.
Just put it in a sleeve. But Lightning Bolt, I started going on that tangent about splashing blue old school cards. You splash white for balance and Swords to Plowshares. I don't know if they still print Swords to Plowshares regularly or not, but it feels to me like Lightning Bolt is not too powerful.
Especially with how powerful creatures have gotten, I feel like that's the
point. That's the point. I was seeing comments about, let's go back to where we started. A creature.
By the way, Swords to Plowshares is heavily reprinted.
Okay.
So, anyways, go ahead.
Just as good. Anyways, it limits creature design because you don't want to. Because many people won't play a card just because it's boltable, a creature card just because it's boltable. So then just give the creature 4 toughness. It's not such a big deal. And actually increasing the toughness of your creatures isn't really going to warp the format all that much. Because, I mean, a lot of the creatures that people play all the time, they're not like stuffing their deck full of creatures with the best toughness. When it comes to power and toughness is usually the one people care about the least.
It's true, yeah. It's a good point. Plus, you have things like regeneration and,
Yeah. So I don't know. I was just surprised that it's been reprinted so sparsely since we quit playing. In my mind, this is a staple of Magic. It was always there. It would always be there. It was not. As soon as we left the game, so did Lightning Bolt, essentially. At least the standard format.
I don't mind them taking a break from it, but it'd be nice to see it like pop in and out,
It does. I mean, they've kept it cheap because they've reprinted it in all these supplemental sets and compilation sets. That's nice. It's just never in the standard format, the most recent format. Anyways, Alex, you had a follow-up as well.
Yeah, I said, I don't know. I was having just like a brain fart, I think. I said, I couldn't remember if Demonic Tutor was reserved list or not. But it is not. It's an uncommon, and it was one of the cards that was on the reserve list for a minute, and then they took it back off because it's an uncommon. And it's been reprinted to a bunch, so I'm not sure why I was thinking that for a minute.
I just went along with what you said. I don't know.
Huh?
I just went along with what you said. It seems like something that they could have decided to stop.
Well, I was thinking in my mind, they did the same sort of thing. They took it out of, when we were playing in Revised, they stopped printing it. They didn't put it in 4th edition, and it was out for a while. But it came back. When I was looking it up, I found this one. You put up this Judge promo I'd never seen before with like a creepy girl with a baby doll motif on it.
This is pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to beat the demon with whatchamacallit in his forehead. Pentagram. But this is pretty cool.
But
just on like got a
creepy little
level.
kids and baby dolls is like an always like straight to the. Oh, they didn't make her look too creepy. Like this, this could be like another card. It's not.
Wait, here's how I've imagined it. It's the demon has possessed the baby doll, and this baby doll is tutoring this child. The parents don't know the baby doll is feeding her all sorts of psychotic information, telling her
I figured
while she sleeps at night.
What's the quote again?
I don't know.
It says,
"Oh, okay, yeah." It says,
"Almost says it's my imagination, but I know you'd never lie to me."
That is a good one. I never see these Judge promos anywhere. I wonder if people actually buy them. People really heavily collect them. They're all expensive, but is it just because there's just not many in existence? Do people care about the Judge?
Yeah, they're pretty rare. I mean, some of them are more rare than others, I guess, because, I think they've done some of them a few times, or maybe like, I'm not sure what all the details are, but.
Interesting.
Yep.
So that was your correction. Demonic Tutor,
the Judge
not reserve list.
I've looked at one or two of them that I thought looked nice. I like the art on the Balance Judge promo. That's pretty cool. But you can't play Balance in like anything, so
Balance. Another card that I feel like we should be able to play more often. And potentially another card that didn't get printed after 4th edition, maybe. This might be the same situation as Lightning Bolt. We opened it in revised packs. I have a 4th edition one, so I know we opened it in 4th edition as well. Yeah, 4th edition, and that was it. You just saw it in a couple other supplemental sets or special sets. Eternal Masters, collector's edition of some sort. Oh, this is the old school collector's edition. From the Vault, a Judge promo. This is the one you said it was cool, right?
I like that art.
Is it also in From the Vault? It's the Eternal Masters art too. Yeah. Oh, this one is not terribly expensive either.
No.
Probably because nobody can play Balance in any format.
Yeah.
Obviously a powerful card, but I think you should give this to White. I think White should be able to play Balance.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like that it's completely gone now.
We've talked about Balance too. It's not a card that's always great for you anytime you want to play it. You have to put some thought into the deck that you put Balance in when you want to play it during the game. It's not like Demonic Tutor. You pull it, and every time I play this is going to be awesome for me. I can always get something good. I always have a great outcome.
I do think it's very easy though to make like a deck where like it plays a large role, and do you know what I mean? I think it's very easy to build around it and to make a combo with it.
Yeah.
It's very strong. It does a lot of things for 2 mana.
You had one other correction too, Alex, right?
What did I do? Probably.
It was about the list.
The little, cards on the list have the little symbol stamped on them. I've noticed this before, and I've seen it on Magic like stuff, and I never really like thought too much about it. It's just like a symbol, like a Magic symbol, but it's not like the Magic symbol. So I didn't
know what it was either.
Yeah, I looked it up, and it's actually called the Planeswalker symbol, and that's why we see it on all sorts of various Magic products and things like that.
And it's on the bottom left corner of every card in the list. This is something everybody already knows, but listen, we played before Planeswalkers existed. I don't know if Wizards even had that goofy little symbol when we played. I don't know. Maybe it was on some books or something, on some book covers. It wasn't on Magic cards.
Yeah, I don't remember it from anything really, but yeah. So I learned that it's about Planeswalkers.
Because that's the end of our follow-ups for the day, Alex, unless you had anything else you wanted to touch on.
No, I think we followed up.
I think we're going to go into our first segment of episode 39. We're going to discuss the Dragon Auras cycle.
Yeah.
So this is a cycle from the 2003 expansion set Scourge. This is a set that is important to me because it is the last old frame expansion sets. And at the moment, I'm only currently accumulating old frame cards. I'm only putting together decks for old frame formats. It's also the last expansion set that is pre-modern legal. So that's great. Got to learn about the cards that are in this set. First time I saw any of the cards in this Dragon Auras cycle was last week, Alex, when you showed me Dragon Fangs. So these auras, aka enchant creatures, they partially compensate for what I hate the most about creature enchantment spells, which is when somebody blows one off the board, you get 2 for 1. They search the plowshares, your enchanted creature, they spend 1 card, you lose 2. So these cards you can get back. This is kind of like Rancor. I said this probably 10 times already in the podcast, but when I came back, 2 of the coolest cards that I saw were Rancor and Elephant Guide. And the first deck that I built for pre-modern is just a mono green deck with 4 Rancors, 4 Elephant Guides. I love these because you can use them to enchant your creatures, buff them up, but if somebody blows your creatures off the board, Rancor comes back to your hand. Elephant Guide, you still get a 3/3 creature out of it, which is pretty good. So these cards, somebody blows it off the board, you can get this card back partially. It doesn't come back to your hand. It doesn't automatically go back on a creature. But if you play a large creature from your hand, something with 6 casting cost or higher, the enchantment comes from the graveyard straight onto that creature.
Yeah. And I actually found these because someone was talking about them in the comments of Corona False God, who I have as my commander right now.
Okay.
They were talking about how they work well with her. And probably, other commanders as well.
I was reading a little bit about these over the last couple of days. And I was also reading a little bit about Scourge. And these cards, they fit with, I learned that there were a couple themes to Scourge. I knew it was a dragon theme set. But it also had another theme, which was cost matters or size matters. Which, as far as I can tell, is just essentially a theme around playing large casting cost spells.
Giving you like an incentive to play some of those bigger casting cost creatures that a lot of people shy away from because they're expensive, I guess.
They printed a lot of powerful things, but they made them high casting cost, and they printed cards that worked with other high casting cost cards. Side note, it seems to me like that's like a great way to put together a set that nobody wants to play very often. Because like when we first started playing Magic when we were kids, what gets you excited are the things that are high casting costs because they're usually huge creatures. And then you very quickly realize that you cannot put these in decks if you ever want to win a game. Even if you're not like a competitive tournament player or something, you don't want to lose every fucking game you play. So
yeah,
you start
that's
removing
why
the big
I like this. It's like it breathes life into that, maybe. You know what I mean?
It does, maybe. I'm not sure if it worked overall for like the set of Scourge as a whole, because I don't see a lot of Scourge cards getting played.
But it might be hard to play the Scourge cards outside of that, you know what I mean? Like not just in a limited format.
That's awesome. That's very true. It also kind of fits the dragon theme. I said it was a dragon theme.
Yeah.
I say kinda, because these don't really have anything to do with dragons for the most part. They just put the dragon, they put the word dragon in the name.
Yeah, because dragons usually have big casting costs.
So the first one, Alex,
First
the
one.
first of the dragon auras, aka dragon enchantments, is Dragon Fangs.
Dragon Fangs.
This is the one that you talked about yesterday. Man, what's going on with MTG stocks today? It's not loading right away. I have to do double load all the time.
Fresh.
Oh, you know what? Before we started recording, I did earlier in the day read a tweet from MTG stocks, said they put together like a major update. Let us know if you see any issues
Oh, really?
with the site. So maybe this is what's happening. Dragon Fangs is one colorless, one green enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. When a creature with converted mana cost 6 or more comes into play, you may return Dragon Fangs from the graveyard to play, enchanting that creature. So, you gotta. I like this in green. I like these cards, especially in green. I'll tell you why. Because there's tons of small 1/1 drops that you can play in green. So first turn, you play your 1-drop. Second turn, you play Dragon Fangs.
Yeah.
So you've gotten use out of your 1-drop creature and this enchantment creature on the curve, turns 1 and 2, you get to play it. It's good early game use, especially in decks and in colors that have lots of 1-drops. So I like having a 1/1 on turn 1 and a 2/2 on turn 2. That's good for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And then green also has like a lot of big creatures, big baddies. They're very common in green. There's a lot of ramp in green, so they print a lot of high casting cost, big buff creatures in green. So if you put this, when this card's in green or in a green deck, there's a good chance you're going to get use out of it late game or early game and late game. That's what I'm getting at. I like that fact. So this guy has a rating of 3.368 on Gatherer. Not bad. That sounds to me like a playable, casual enchantment. That's a pretty good rating for an enchantment. When I see an enchant creature that has a rating approaching 3.5, it signals to me that people appreciate it, that they play it.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to do with Dragon Fangs? This is the one you brought up.
Oh, geez, is it? Oh, no.
I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe the one you brought up is the last one that I'm going to.
I don't know if I brought up one specifically or if I just mentioned them.
Okay.
But I might have mentioned Dragon Fangs to you because of your deck.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah.
Or maybe one of the other ones. We'll get to them when I see them because I can't
Pumping
remember.
and trampling. So I like Dragon Fangs. I could see myself playing this guy. The only thing is, the creature has to be wiped off the board. But like I said, put them on your Land of War Elf. Put them on your Birds of Paradise to make your Birds of Paradise 1/2, and then you got a flyer you can attack with. People want to get rid of those cards. They want to blow those cards off the board. So probably they're going to do a little bit of work for you early in the game, and it's probably also going to end up in your graveyard at some point because somebody's going to want to kill those creatures.
And I would like this in mixed, like black-green. You could put it on some, putting this on a Hypnotic Spectre would be pretty wicked. Or like a creature that you can sacrifice eventually, like use them, and then if you you're having trouble like getting the Dragon Fangs into the graveyard, you could sacrifice it. Probably won't be too hard because you could just suicide with them, but I kind of like that. Anyways.
Yeah, I like the idea of putting them on something you can sacrifice.
Or like something that detonates, maybe some kind of like suicide goblin-y kind of creature, that like goes in and like or like has a bad effect if he goes unblocked or put like a whole bunch of pressure on them. I don't know.
Second card and the Dragon Auras cycle.
Second card
is the white one. It is Dragon Scales. I'm going to do the update again. Dragon Scales has a casting cost of 1 colorless, 1 white, again an enchant creature. These are all commons, I believe. Didn't mention that.
Okay.
Enchanted creature gets +1/+2, and attacking does not cause it to tap. Again, when a creature with converted mana cost 6 or more comes into play, you may return Dragon Scales from your graveyard to play, enchanting that creature. I love Vigilance, So this gives your creatures vigilance. It's probably my favorite ability for a creature. Maybe I go back and forth a little bit between vigilance and trample, but I love vigilance. I think if I use this though, I'd still want to use it in a with a green creature. I don't know if I put it in a mono white deck. And maybe it's not a coincidence that the artwork has the guy turning into like a green scaly dragon type monster.
Yeah. Well, if you have you're not going to want to use it on stuff that already has vigilance, and that's probably what white the most.
Yeah, I think so.
White's like the vigilance color. So yeah, you might run into some redundancy if you're trying to use it on your white creatures. But maybe there are plenty of white creatures that don't. But yeah, I like this a lot because vigilance is great, and it beefs him up +1/+2, so it makes the creature harder to kill, give them some survivability and some power.
And I don't think you usually see vigilance on really big creatures. So this is great for giving a vigilance to a big baddie. You can attack and he's still there as a blocker. So people aren't going to want to come at you because you still got something huge, something buffed up, something given +1/+2 now. They're available as a blocker even if you attack with them. 3.067 on Gatherer. Might be my least favorite of the cycle.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have to think about it. I have to think about the next one. The next one might be my least favorite. The next one, Alex, in the cycle is Dragon Wings. This is the blue Dragon Aura card from Scourge. It is a casting cost again of 1 colorless, 1 blue. It is again an enchant creature. Okay, yeah, white's my least favorite, I think. I forgot this. So enchanted creature has flying. Not amazing. But you can cycle it. Cycling 1 colorless, 1 blue. So that's what I love about this one, really, that you cycle it. You can get it into your graveyard so easy. So it's ready to do its thing as soon as you cycle it.
Yeah, you cycle it, get the card, and then it gets onto your creature for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you put it where it needs to be in order to do its thing, which is in the graveyard. You can do that. You don't have to wait for your opponent to do it. And you get to draw a card.
Yeah.
When you cycle. But its ability is underwhelming. The enchant creature, it's not as exciting to me as the abilities that all the other ones give.
And if you have a 6 mana cost creature, is it going to have flying or not already? I know they don't all, but if you're already playing blue and you're casting a 6,
most of the big blue creatures might already have flying.
Yeah, the blue ones will. I think you're going to be using this in a multicolored deck on your non-blue creatures.
Leviathan doesn't. There's a whale that doesn't also. I think Palicron has flying. Since I'm an old man, an old man Magic player, my mind just immediately goes to Mahamodi Jin. I'm like, yeah, it flies already.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little hard on it because, same thing, like I said with the white one. Maybe with, I don't know. You're going to be trying to cast it on a creature from a different color in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not.
3.171 on Gatherer. Slightly higher rating than the white. I agree with that. I do give it a slightly higher rating than the white because of its cycling ability. Because you can get it to where you want it to be, and you get to draw a card when you do that.
But just what about the thing about this is compare it to Leap, I think. Leap is the card I think I'm thinking of. It's a 2 casting cost, gives them flying, and you draw a card, has a cantrip.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's only for 1 turn. It wouldn't be an enchantment. It's just an instant.
Yeah.
So it's not that different from that card. In my mind.
Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Yeah, but just end of turn. It's 1 blue.
Oh, and it's a 1 blue instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is an instant, so yeah, you can use this for trickery, which is, sometimes reason enough to play a card, even if it's just has an effect for 1 turn. Just the unexpected nature of it can help you, win battles.
Yeah.
Potentially win a game. I like when I looked on Gatherer that somebody mentioned comboing Dragon Wings with Island of Wak Wak. Which I love this because it involves Island of Wak Wak. This is an absurd combo. For people who don't know, everybody probably knows Island of Wak Wak, but for people who don't know, Island of Wak Wak is a land from Arabian Nights. You tap it to reduce target flying creature's power to 0. So they're like, you can, let me read this. Let me read Dragon Wings again. Because they were like, put it on your opponent's creature. When a creature with converted mana cost of 6 or more comes into play, you may return. Yes. So you just get this. You have Dragon Wings in your deck. You cycle it. You get it in your graveyard. You play your Island of Wak Wak. Now, anytime your opponent plays something with 6 mana cost or more, you can say, okay, I've decided to equip your creature with my Dragon Wings, and then I'm going to tap my Wak Wak. It's not going to do any damage to me. So you can give it to your opponent and Wak Wak the shit out of them, Alex. I always liked Island of Wak Wak because it seems like a stupid card to me and it has a goofy name. Side note, this is why I hate the reserve list. I hate that you can't play a goofy card like Island of Wak Wak at the moment because they're $300 to $400 to pick up. You can't. Yeah. You have to proxy it. I know you could proxy everything, but it's ridiculous that you can't just get yourself a stupid, cheap reprint of Island of Wak Wak and play your stupid Dragon Wings Island of Wak Wak deck to irritate your friend who likes to play a lot of big creatures against you. It drives me crazy. And it's all happened, you know, the reserve list has stuck and these buyouts started like around 2018, 2017, 2018, and they've just gotten worse and worse over time because there are people with a lot of extra cash and they're just hoarding this stuff and it's absurd. I would have no problem playing. I mean, this is vintage cardboard, right? They're rare. Let's look at this as the first edition, first printing of Island of Wak Wak. I would have no problem with this card being $50 to $100. Mm-hmm. It should be for a popular game, an old early edition, something, a first printing of something. It's going to be more expensive than, you know, the stuff you can open up in packs now. But the way the price has spiked since 2018 in response to what we know are buyouts is absurd. Yeah. And Wizards of the Coast has let this thing get out of hand with the reserve list. I understand the initial impetus for the reserve list. People put a lot of money into those cards. They were upset about the fact that the value of the cards collapse upon reprint when Chronicles first came out.
Yeah.
But now there's just so much market manipulation by older wealthy collectors that they're skewing these values to an insane degree.
All I had to do was just
step in, Wizards.
Correctly and carefully, you know, manage the reprinting of things. You know?
Exactly.
And then maybe a tall order, but like if they had just correctly and carefully managed the reprinting of things, they wouldn't need like a blanket like prohibition on themselves from doing something.
That's a good point. Because Chronicles probably wouldn't have been the fiasco that it was if it wasn't printed in such absurdly high numbers. No, I mean, there's just Chronicle cardboard.
And even then, I mean,
literally littering the planet all over the place.
Even with Chronicles happening in the wake of it, like they could have, instead of doing the reserved list thing, they could have been like, okay, look, we screwed up. We're going to be more careful about this in you know, the future. And we're going to show you by here, next set, we're going to, you know, only reprint a few cards and like, you know, not overprint this set and, you know.
Yeah. And then we wouldn't be living in a world where Island of Wak Wak is $400. Come on.
Or give you an archaeologist or a whole bunch of other stuff that has just been cornered for no reason.
Did you ever have a Wak Wak, Alex? I never had a Wak Wak.
No. I've had almost no Arabian Nights cards ever. I have my FBIF Afreet. I have a playset of Unstable Mutations that I bought because I wanted them. But other than that, I missed the boat on I had Ali from Cairo. He was my big Arabian Nights card probably. Other than that, I mostly missed the boat on Arabian Nights cards.
I just had a library. That was the only I own more library, more Arabian Nights cards now than I ever did because I have a playset of Gazbong Ogres and I bought a Waioli Wolf for the pump. Anyways, my little walk.
I wish I'd bought one of these when it was cheap.
I saw them floating around in Hot Shots sometimes. I think Dusty probably had an Island Walk. Remember Dusty, Alex?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Okay.
It's. I mean, the art's goofy on it, but it's. You were making fun of it, but it's not really a bad card at all. Like it's a Maze of Ith for flying creatures, right?
Yeah, but just for flying creatures. So when you have Maze of Ith, it's like what?
A lot of people play flying creatures though, and a lot of the things that you're going to be afraid of are going to be flying. And if you have something else that can deal with non-flying creatures,
I know. Listen, this is one of my fears when it comes to the pump.
Got some walks. You got the moats, the walks.
I had a moat. I never got a walk. I would just 4 Swords of Plowshares and a Maze of Ith, and I think I felt like I'd be fine.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it just like doesn't rise to the. You don't really need it with
moat, swords, lightning bolts, a fireball. If I had to deal with a Shaban and my swords were gone or something, I never found the need to have a walk. But I just want to. It would be nice to have a cheap reprint of a walk available, so I could make, like I said,
a goofy deck with
a stupid Dragon Wings Island walk deck.
Yeah.
Cards that are highly playable, they're expensive. This is only expensive because people are there's like 3 people hoarding the walks. This isn't a deck that everybody wants in their this isn't a card that everybody needs for their commander deck, and everybody in old school builds decks with like 4 walks. It doesn't exist.
I know, yeah. What was I gonna say? No, I forgot.
This card should be about as expensive as Maze of Ith.
Fair enough.
Anywho, I went on a rant there. I went off topic.
Okay. There's no off topic.
I saw the price of this walk. It got me fired up. I went from being excited, seeing a gatherer comment about comboing Dragon Wings with walk to being fired up when I was reminded of the price of this walk. Next card in the Dragon Auras cycle is Dragon Shadow. This is the black aura.
Sounds like it.
Casting cost is 1 colorless, 1 black.
I love the consistency across casting costs here.
Like all the others, is an enchant creature. Another side note, Alex. Did you know Rancor wasn't supposed to be just 1 green?
No.
It was supposed to be, I think, 1 colorless, 1 green, and they screwed up.
Oh.
And they printed a card that was way more powerful than they
were
to be. So yeah, all of these cards are the casting cost that I think Rancor was also supposed to be.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the art on this. I like how
I know it's good.
The little goblin is like sneaking through all like the crazy battle because he has like the big dragon shadow like scaring everyone away from him.
I was thinking the same thing, and you know what I thought immediately when I saw this.
What? Something about Squee?
Gabagoos.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This could go in my Gabi Zomblin Gabagoo deck.
Mm-hmm.
Potential that I haven't built yet, but I got to put that together. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has fear.
Great.
Alex, I think fear is an underappreciated ability. And I say this as somebody who I think I've never played fear ever.
I always was fascinated by that sort of like, and there's some similar mechanics like shadow.
Yeah. I'm considering that the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a few things like that, and I always liked it and wanted to like work that into decks. I even always kind of liked land walking, even though I know it's kind of crappy usually. But
unless it's island walk,
I like that. I like that being able to like send creatures through, especially creatures that have an effect when they attack you, like a hypnotic specter that makes them discard a card, or like a creature that maybe gets bigger if it damages the opposing player.
Yeah,
I've always liked that sort of I don't know, combo or that idea with fear and cards like that,
or poison counters maybe. Although in this case, it's like it's getting strapped to a big baddie, so you're probably not dealing with like a poison deck. You're just trying to end the game with a big fatty.
But in black, like I mean, this goes so great on a Hypnotic Spectre early game, and then on like, your big baddie later.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was forgetting about the early game for some reason, even though I started off this whole cycle by saying, "Oh, it's good in the early game, could also be great in the late game too." Get use both games. Yeah, I've never put together. I don't even know if I've ever played a creature with fear or shadow in a deck. I feel like it should be a bigger deal, and I do think I'd need to put together a fear or shadow deck. I was actually thinking about it not that long ago in the context of a white deck, because there's a lot of small 1/1, 2/2 white creatures in the Soltari, like Soltari creatures. I don't know. I don't know what a Soltari is, but a lot of them are also soldiers. And we've talked about soldier decks, putting together a white soldier deck and a lot of soldier synergy. I was like, this would be a neat angle for a white soldier deck to have all these small power toughness, low casting costs soldiers in white that also have shadow.
Okay.
And you pump them for a few turns.
Are you talking about creatures that already come with shadow?
They have shadow already. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. That'd be fun.
Let me just Google something real quick. If I just put in Soltari, I feel like they all came out in like the Tempest block.
Oh, I was gonna say I thought Soltari was like Visions.
Yeah, the first one here, Soltari Troop. This is the very first one that popped up at Tempest. Let me see. Shadow. One colorless, one white, 1/1. If it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It has shadow. So yeah, just put a full-on white aggro shadow deck. Don't even care that these guys can't block. Just like every turn, you're playing a new shadow creature and you're swinging. Balls to the fucking walls, Alex.
And if you whatever creatures they have coming for you, you get rid of with removal. Maybe I don't know if you're talking about playing white black, but
you could also play white black. Yeah,
you'd be playing Swords of Plowshares and Terrors or whatever, and destroy their creatures and go aggro with these ones that get bigger. I like this guy how he gets bigger.
Yeah, there's this card that didn't exist so much when we played. We didn't really play during Exodus. I knew of Exodus. I never opened a single Exodus pack. I mean, putting this guy in a fear deck and a shadow deck. Hatred, 3 colorless, 2 black, instant. Pay X life. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn.
On unblockable creatures.
I mean, this was like the linchpin, I think, of like Suicide Black decks in years right after we stopped playing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know it was very, very popular.
Huge spike. It's making its way back down. I know MTG stock says market price at 38 right now, but I think you can get some on TCG Player near mint, closer to, or not near mint, light play closer to 30.
That's good. Yeah, because this was
keep dropping, baby.
There, she was hot.
Keep dropping.
And I don't want to spend that much money on this card. Like I want to have one.
I know. Yeah.
I don't want to.
I definitely don't want to pay more than $50 for it. No. I do want to pay $15 for it. I don't know if I ever get it for $15.
You probably want to have more than one of these if you're building a deck that uses this card, right? Like maybe you only have one just as your final win condition kind of thing, but like I think you'd want 2 of them in there.
You probably want to draw it, so
I guess you could tutor for it. I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll have to look and see how people build decks with this card if they only put 1 copy in or what, but
that's what I was going to say, tutoring for it. I would want to put it in a deck where, I make sure I could get it, and then maybe even make sure I could get it back from the graveyard if somebody counterspelled.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you just put it in a deck where you don't need it, but if you get it, it can help you win the game much sooner.
That's the way I would like to use this card.
That's probably how everybody uses the card. I said something very obvious, I'm sure.
No, I mean, I was like, that's the way I would like to use it, but I think other people probably use it smarter than me, like in a combo or something like that.
Okay. Don't sell yourself short, Alex. You're smart.
No, I didn't say I wasn't smart.
You're smart. You're probably smarter than the average Magic player. Anyways,
I like that goblin. He's
fear, shadow. I should make a fear shadow deck. Never played it. You also agree it's probably an underrated mechanic. Seems like it should be a bigger deal than it is. Maybe it is a huge deal, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" but
Yeah.
our play group just never played it, and you and I never really built decks around it. I'd like to strap this bad boy to Rith, the Awakener, if I could in my current commander deck, but I can't. I'm playing red,
Yeah,
green,
you'd be
white.
good on that whole cycle of dragons that like, or whatever you want to call them, that like do special things when they get through. You know, like
Yeah.
Rith, Croesus, the Purger,
Yeah.
the others as well.
Nicole Bolas, the OG.
I'll
Discard in your hand, right?
Garagaz, Aragat, Algaraz, whatever.
Darigaz.
Darigaz, yeah, that's right. Darigaz is Caldera.
No, Darigaz, Alex.
Darigaz.
Exactly. Some people in the comments, 3.702 on Gatherer. So all that is, I remember when I saw that, I'm like, maybe Fear isn't as underappreciated as I thought. I wrote that.
No, I mean, that's okay. I think it was when we played, there were not too many Fear cards or good creatures with it. So it might have been limited.
Also, Fear, the original Fear, is 2 black. This is 1 colorless.
Yeah. So hell black. Yeah. Way better.
Talk about a strictly better version of something.
Yeah.
Know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Alex, the final Dragon Aura in the Dragon Aura cycle.
I'm glad. Okay, I'll wait to introduce it.
This might have been the one that you were thinking about putting on Corona. Maybe. It is Dragon Breath.
Possibly, because it's good.
It is the red one. Its casting cost is one colorless, 1 red. It is a flame. It is a fire-breathing pig.
You're correct, actually. Yes, I remember now. Yeah, look at that pig breathing that fire.
Yeah, I think this one's the best of the bunch.
I agree.
It's one thing that gives it fire breathing. You know, fire breathing existed as a card. Actually, this is a better, strictly better fire breathing too, because isn't fire breathing 1 colorless, one red?
I think it's just 1 red, but I might be wrong.
I think you're right, actually. Let me look it up real quick. I think you're right. Fire breathing from Alpha. Or we'll go with the Magic 2012 if that's the one that pops up first. Whatever.
Yeah, it's just 1 red.
It's just 1 red. Yeah, it's just 1 red. Okay, so it's one thing to have fire breathing. I don't think I have no memory of ever actually playing the card fire breathing.
No one plays fire breathing. Maybe some. I can't believe that they do.
I probably did at some point, like when I only owned like 60 cards, right? Yes. When I was starting to play Magic the Gathering, and you just made a deck out of anything you had at the moment. But after that phase, never even looked at fire breathing. I just played with my Dragon Whelps and my Siobhan Dragon.
Yeah, some creatures have fire breathing, and that's good. Even then, I feel like they've always been hesitant to they've always been really hesitant to give that mechanic to a creature. Who's strong and well designed with cost and everything like that.
Yeah.
They always seem to put a limit on it. You can only spend 1 this way each turn, or 3 this way each turn, or if you spend more than 1, the creature dies. They seem to be really hesitant to send things out there with fire breathing as far as creature design goes. And I've always been kind of like, why? I don't think it's that strong. Let some creatures have fire breathing.
Or they do what they did with the Killer Bees when they really neutered it, which is 3 to get out, and then it's a 0/1 flyer. So anytime you want to even attack for 1 damage or block a Hypnotic Spectre, you're constantly paying all your mana. Your Killer Bees just suck up all your mana. And I know it's green and you have ramp, but I always want to make Killer Bees work. It's hard, Alex.
Yeah, they start so low. But I mean, if you get them pumped to begin with.
Yes.
I
could put Killer Bees in the pump. And then there'll be 0/3 flying.
Yeah.
Once Jacques Lavera is out. And then when Kaze is there, there'll be 1/4 flying.
Mm-hmm.
And then I power Matrix. Never mind.
You have a lot of options. You have too many options for your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, this card, I saw in the notes that you put that you thought it was the best, and I'm glad you said that because I was going to say the same thing when we brought it up. I think it's the best.
The haste.
Exactly. It's not even the fire breathing, it's the haste. And it's the fact that this card with haste automatically gets popped onto a creature as soon as you summon it.
Yeah, exactly.
Put
It's
down
gonna
that
be
six
it's going to
creature.
be attached to something very big because it's going to be 6 casting cost or more. And that thing that's very big, the turn you play, it's coming at you right away. And I wonder if people play this card a lot. I think that it would be best in a reanimator deck of some sort. And I think that it might play a part in some like pre-modern deck that I can't remember the name of at the moment. But there are different deck types where they're either reanimator, you usually either use cards to get things in. Well, you use cards to get them in. You get your cards in your graveyard in some way. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do that.
Uh-huh.
And then there's certain things like Suture Ghoul. I don't know what people use this for.
Yeah, it's a good point too, because the Dragon Breath says when the creature comes into play, it's not like when you cast it or whatever.
So yeah, exactly. You don't have to cast it.
Out, the
So
Dragon
Suture
Breath
Ghoul
comes out too onto it.
I think this is like a big creature that's in some reanimator decks. You want to fill your graveyard with stuff. Yes. 4 colorless, 3 red, zombie with trample.
Black.
As Suture, I said 3 red, 3 black. Trample. As Suture Ghoul enters the battlefield, exile any number of creature cards from your graveyard. Sutured Ghoul's power is equal to the total power of the exiled cards, and its toughness is equal to their total toughness.
Oh, okay. So it's not just the number of cards; it's their total power and their total.
Yeah. So you have
good.
some sort of deck where you get a bunch of stuff into your graveyard. You finally come to the Sutured Ghoul. You get this out some way. You have your graveyard full of creatures that you can exile. And if you strap a Dragon's Breath or in some way give this guy haste, it's pretty much game over because he's also a trampler.
Right.
When was he first? I know he's in some pre-modern decks.
Yeah, you don't even need a lot of creatures in your graveyard as long as you have a couple big ones, you know?
Yeah.
You can have a couple things like Phyrexian Dreadnought that are only there to like be in your graveyard. And
you don't even play it.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea of these decks. I think they're just full of like huge creatures that you don't even want to play, and then
now I want to play a deck like this with like a recursion deck with the Sutured Ghoul and some like big dumb creature that I would never play on its own.
The Ghoul is cheap, and Dreadnoughts aren't cheap, but there are
Magic is instead. Yeah,
Magic is full of big dumb creatures with big dumb casting costs that nobody ever wants to
I mean, it doesn't
pay,
even have
so
to be black.
Yeah.
I could just throw some Leviathans in the deck or whatever.
Yes. We'll have to look into the Sutured Ghoul deck, see what people usually use these for.
Good old Judgment cards for cheap.
Yeah. Until
Judgment.
Somebody does something stupid, until people start getting crazy. But then they'll just get reprinted. So screw you, hoarders.
Yeah.
Screw you, buyout people.
Yeah.
Not screw you. I apologize. Shouldn't be talking.
I apologize. But yeah, I like this one a lot. I like the haste. They might even be forgetting about it. This card's in your graveyard. As soon as you bring out the big thing, it pops back up. Put the haste on it. And it has fire breathing now.
Yeah.
Pow.
So all these cards are cheap too. They're like, I think they were all less than 25 cents, if not less than 25 cents, around there. They're all commons. They're all from Scourge, which is a cheap set in general. And they're all good. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make it into like any of the decks that I'm making that I want to be like my most competitive decks, but I could see myself putting these into a lot of different things.
Yeah, We've already talked about try them out in things. They're fun.
I see a place for Dragon Shadow, Dragon Breath, and Dragon Fangs. And if Wizards ever does a Magic 30 style thing for Arabian Nights or other expansions, and that price of Island Walk comes plummeting to the ground, crashing to the ground, then who knows? Maybe a Dragon Wings Island of Walk deck will appear.
The Dragon Wings Island of Walk combo is the one you're like fixating on here.
It's because it involves Island of Walk.
I guess. Is there what you need is a reverse gravity sphere? Is there something like gravity sphere that makes everything flying, like lifts everything up?
That'd be interesting. There's
got to be that with Island of Walk, you'd be set.
Well, again, that involves me getting Island of Walks. Yes, I can proxy them, but still. I prefer to have the real Wizards of the Coast printed cardboard.
Oh yeah. So especially for an old card like that, like it's it's historical and collectible and cool.
But even if not the old one, I'm saying, let's say they reprint it or something. The old one's still going to carry a huge premium. Mm-hmm. Arabian Nights, there's not a lot of them out there. I have no problem with original printings carrying a premium. I'm a book collector. I look for first printings. I look for all sorts of things. I get it. But there should be reprints also available for people to purchase. And I'd prefer, even if I could proxy for cheaper than a reprinted card, I'd still prefer to support Wizards of the Coast, to buy or to support my local LGS, buy a single from them.
Yeah, I think you really moved my thinking on this towards yours. I think you've convinced me a lot to like change the way I've been thinking about this.
I'm very persuasive. I just keep complaining. Just introduce brainworms. I just complain, and the people listen to me all day. They're like, "Oh, fine, maybe."
Well, I mean, I think it's just the bottom line is you're right that like the old ones will always still have value and they'll always still be cool because they will never be reprinted perfectly, faithfully to look exactly like and feel like the old ones. So they'll always be there if you want them to collect, and they'll always have a premium attached to them. And card prices like go up and down like crazy anyways. So if you're trying to like, at first I was kind of worried about like the value of my cards, but there's more that I want to buy than I have, the pool of cards that I want versus what I have is.
That's a situation most people are in.
Right.
Not everybody, like, not the hoarders, but most people. Yeah.
Yeah. And then secondly, I forgot the second part. Whatever I was just saying, like,
and it's not even the hoarders that I have a problem with. I like Alpha Hoarder. I watched his YouTube channel. He hoards alpha. Hoard as much alpha as you want. I can still buy a lightning bolt. So it doesn't bother me if you want like all of the fanciest versions of something. That's cool. Whatever.
Right,
keep them nice. He keeps them nice. One day he's going to die. They'll go out into the market. Other rich people will buy them. It's fine. Doesn't affect my ability to play lightning bolt if he has 75 alpha lightning bolts. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was that, like, I was worried about the value of my cards, but the price of cards goes up and down for dumb reasons all the time. It's kind of like, I'm going to see that maybe happen to the value of my cards anyways. Like, it's still coming down from, like, the big spike that cards had. So I might just be watching my cards lose value anyways. So, like, what's the big deal? I don't know. I don't know.
I also don't invest in Magic, so I have.
I'm not expecting this to be like an ironclad investment or anything. I want old cards more because I think they're cool and I want to collect them and own them, and I think they're neat.
I think this is actually a good segue into the next segment, Alex. You have a couple things you're going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about something first because I think this is a good segue.
Hit it.
This is about me not investing in, I don't invest in Magic the Gathering cardboard. I buy them because I think they're cool. If I'm going to spend a lot of money on a single, it's because I enjoy having that particular printing of that particular single, not necessarily because it's a spec on future price appreciation. And I think I'm going to buy a whole bunch of them and sell them off at some point. I don't want to sell my cardboard. I think I'm on the record multiple times in this podcast, including last episode, saying I want to die with my cardboard.
Yeah, me too, man. Like, as much as I think about like, I could, get this card and sell it when it's more, I'm like, I just want to keep all these.
For me, it's a collection that I want to continue to accumulate. My financial investments are other places. That's me. Yeah. People differ.
Well, it should be
obviously people differ because I'm going to pull up this post I saw on MTG Finance. These types of posts are really funny to me. Some people do this; they're very serious about this, but they kind of crack me up.
Well, I like the ones that are deliberately funny for starters. When they're set up like this and they have like
Is it deliberately? I see multiple.
I don't think this one's deliberately funny.
Okay.
I think this is just like a straight up one. But sometimes they throw a little humor in it too, and they kind of poke fun at themselves, and it can be funny.
So this is our MTG Finance. This is segment 2, MTG Finance News Market Discussion. This is a post that I saw on MTG Finance last week. I brought it up, one, because they said they're funny to me, but also I kind of just want to talk about Bubble Matrix for a little bit.
Okay.
But this is a Bubble Matrix spec. I've seen these kind of posts show up on MTG Finance from time to time. People will put together like a pitch. It's almost like a little mini pitch deck for a card that they're speccing on. And really the purpose of these posts is to try to get other people interested in so they could buy in. And then the person that bought in before they made the post is going to sell.
Or at the very least to get like feedback to encourage them along their way, to get like, positive reinforcement for their idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with you. A lot of times people are trying to
feedback, but really like these specs, they don't work unless you get other people to buy into it. So this is just trying to get other
anyone who's posting this, if they're smart at all, should have already bought the card before they posted it. So then yes, what you're saying.
They will say they didn't, but you never know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
So this is a Bubble Matrix spec. Bubble Matrix is a artifact from Weatherlight. It is forecasting cost. All damage dealt to creatures is reduced to 0. Hannah, Weatherlight Navigator, says, this device was commissioned by a king who desired peace. Unfortunately, the royal artificer was also the king's jester. So the pros for this spec, it's reserve list, meaning it will never be officially reprinted. This is another problem with the reserve list. It encourages people to just buy up absurd amounts of cards that are on the reserve list.
Just because they're on the reserve list. Yeah.
Just because they're on the reserve list. And if anybody wants to ever make a goofy little Bubble Matrix deck in the future, they don't have access to the cardboard. Again, I know they could proxy, but it's still nicer to have a nice card that's sized the same way as all your other cards. It's the same thickness. Relatively unique effect, can even go around certain board writings. I agree with that. I kind of like this card. I think it's goofy.
I would say relatively good effect can even go around certain board wipes. The one thing I was going to throw out about this, like kind of like as a con, I don't think the effect is that unique, or even if it is, like not necessarily guaranteed to stay unique. Like they will definitely reprint more cards that do. Like this is a pretty simple idea for a card. It's not complicated. They will reprint more cards, print more cards that reduce creature damage to 0. It might be an enchantment, different artifact, whatever. But it's not like a really weird or unique card.
I don't know if there's anything else out there like this that's like a continuous effect.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
creature damage to 0. There might be an enchantment out there. Maybe multiple enchantments. There's a lot of stuff you and I aren't familiar with.
But I do think it's good. I think it's good, yeah.
Cancels combat trades, mean that is a sort of light stacks that should still be socially acceptable in MTG EDH matches. This is also something that I haven't run into yet. Every time there's any sort of reference to like Commander or EDH, it's always like making sure nobody's upset about any card you played. This is maybe something I'll run into when I start going to LGSs once I have my Commander deck built. But
I'm not super worried about that. I feel like people can work out their own rules and etiquette between themselves.
It seems very weird to me, and maybe it's just because I'm not at all like this small percentage of like super aggro Magic the Gathering player who's like going to walk into an LGS and like laugh in everybody's faces when I kill everybody on turn 3 and insult them. I just want to play goofy Magic.
I think part of the problem is that there are so many cards now over such a large span with different power levels that you do have to sort of work it out a little bit with the people you're playing with, because it's easy to be like, one person have a deck that's like way stronger than another person's. Maybe I'm just talk about it.
Could be totally naive, but I feel like all that would involve is saying, is this a super competitive deck or a casual deck?
Yeah. Like, have you spent a lot of money on this deck, or like, like this is my deck. This is kind of what I've spent on it, or this is, like I have some cards from this tier, like old cards, new cards, whatever, like really good cards, whatever. Tell people a little bit about what you're playing and whatever.
And then if we find out that we have different definitions of like casual competitive and they just smoke me a few times, then maybe we just get out some different decks.
Yeah.
You work through it. Anyways.
So, you're way more competitive than you said you were.
Then we fight, then we fist fight. Artifacts, synergies, and colorless means it can fit into almost any deck. I do like that.
Okay, yes.
Cons. Combat's very popular in EDH. Means that some decks will not like this card. Oh, well.
So what?
4 mana means it's a bit too expensive for CEDH. See, I'm not playing CEDH.
Okay.
I also don't think competitive EDH maybe I'm naive here too, drives most of the purchases too, because most people aren't like playing in EDH tournaments. They're playing more casually.
Right. I also, and this is definitely, I know I'm stupid here, but is 4 mana too expensive for CEDH? Because
I don't think so. I especially don't think so.
5 casting cost cards that people like and say are sweet cards. There are, 5 casting cost cards that are $100 or more, and there's lots of them.
I also don't think so when it comes to colorless mana. You got to realize this isn't 4 mana of different colors. It's 4 colorless mana. There's a lot of ways to ramp that out real fast. You get your friggin' Miser's Workshop out.
And he says, Weatherlight is a recent set. I disagree.
I was going to put Weatherlight is a recent set, meaning that there are a lot of copies of a specific card and no foils. So basically, all the comments are just people going like, what's with your concept of time if you think Weatherlight is a recent set? They're very confused.
I wonder if he doesn't know when Weatherlight was, because he says it's early, and he's like, there are a lot of copies.
I think he knows.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And no foils. He knows this is before foils, but how does he think it's recent if it's before foils?
I think he knows, but it wasn't well thought out.
I think he just means like
anyways,
post 4 Horsemen.
Exactly. He means there's a lot of copies.
Yeah.
Post 4 Horsemen print runs increase dramatically. This isn't about roasting this guy, so I don't want to.
Yeah. I'm not giving him a hard time. I'm just joking around.
But the whole comment section, like people couldn't get past that. That's essentially all like 75% of the commenters could focus on. But here's his strategy. So this is why I think these posts are so weird. And I'm like, are people really doing this? And if you are, I'd say stop investing in Magic the Gathering. Stop it.
Yeah.
Whatever money you are going to take into like your next and put into your next spec or your current spec, just dollar cost average into an S&P 500 index fund.
Yeah.
Don't even pay attention to it.
Pay off your credit card debt.
Pay off your credit card debt. Strategy buy $500 worth, because it's around $5 right now. A Hyundai gives you approximately 100 copies of this card in near mint or light play status. Exit. Sell when the price doubles or triples as buy list.
I noticed that part, and I thought that that's a very broad exit strategy. Doubles or triples.
Also, not a good one. Either one, not good. If you're buying $5 cards and you're waiting for, so you're going to pay tax. You're waiting for them to triple. It's going to be a $15 card. You don't have a Magic the Gathering shop.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to sell it on somebody else's platform.
Yeah.
One, if it's like eBay or something, I don't know that your bubble matrices are going to like fly out of the house. You're going to be posted them and nobody's going to bid on a bunch of them.
Especially when you're trying to sell 100 of them, maybe the first 4 will sell quickly.
Yes, it's going to stop. You're going to put them on TCG Player. Other people are going to put them on TCG Player. People are going to be pulling bubble matrices out of their boxes that they haven't looked at for the past 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
They're going to show up
find mine. I don't have one little thing, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
So one, you're not going to be able to offload these quickly, even if you think you can. I don't think. Maybe somebody's going to listen to this and be like, I offload hundreds of cards very quickly all the time, and I'm just like an individual speculator. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I don't think you're going to be able to offload them quickly. People are going to come along. They're going to post the same card for less than a cent, like 5 cents less than what you posted it for. They're going to get price sniped, blah, blah, blah. But even if none of that happens, even if it goes well, the card triples $15. You don't have your own store. You have to sell it on somebody else's platform that is going to take between 10 and 20% of your money. You're going to have to
ship.
You're going to have to ship. So you have to purchase packing and shipping materials. And then some percentage of these cells are going to get damaged in the mail, or lost in the mail.
Lie and say they didn't get it.
Or people are going to lie. People are going to be unhappy with the condition. There's going to be returns. So you're talking about so much hassle for potentially turning $500 into $1,500. I'm telling you, it's much better to put the money into an S&P 500 index fund.
If you really believe in this spec, buy yourself a play set of them, buy 4 of them or 5 of them so you have an extra one, like whatever. Put the rest of your money, somewhere good, And then you have a couple of these if they spike, so that you don't have to buy them at the higher price. You can trade them or turn them in, for more than you paid for them, and it'll be nice. But you're not going to make $6,000 flipping bubble matrices.
It's very, best case scenario, they triple. Here's the best case scenario. The best case scenario that's being described here is he makes $1,000 for all of this effort. First, you gotta buy the 100 near mint LP cards first.
Yeah, and how many of those will come in?
Aren't going to come near mint LP. Yeah. So it's gonna go terribly from the start. I think. Maybe again, I'm totally wrong. If people are like making a ton of money doing this, but I don't think so. I think it's gonna go wrong from the start. You're not gonna receive 100 near mint to LP cards.
Right.
When you exit, you're probably not going to be able to exit as quickly as you would hope. The platforms that you sell them on are going to take a percentage that's going to eat into your earnings. There's going to be things damaged or lost in the mail that's going to eat into your earnings. You're going to make $500 over the course of what? Years.
Yeah, who knows how long it'll take to spike, then how long it'll take for you to sell them all. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're both on the same page that we agree that these are not smart things to do with your money.
Yeah.
Okay. But this one kind of cracked me up. Because I was like, this plan is flawed in multiple ways. But also, I don't want this person to spike Bubble Matrix because I like Bubble Matrix.
And again, back to my point, I'll buy maybe a playset of Bubble matrices, and then I'll have them if I ever want to use them in case the price spikes, and I don't have to, buy them at a higher price.
I don't know if people play with Bubble Matrix. I don't think they do very often, but this commander deck I'm building, some of the cards involve making a lot of tokens. I think it would be fun to build a Bubble Matrix token generator deck. Mm-hmm. And your whole strategy is just to go wide. If you have more tokens, and your opponent,
block all day.
You could block all day and then just swing.
Yeah.
Around.
I like
just go wide. Bubble Matrix, block all day, go wide. That was the real point of bringing this up.
Oh.
What do you think about Bubble Matrix? Do you think it's a good spec? I'm going to build my token generator Bubble Matrix deck. You're going to play against it. I'm going to take it some other places. We're going to play some people. And then I'm going to be like, Bubble Matrix is going to be the next thing. 6 months from now, I'm going to be telling you, buy as many Bubble Matrices as you can, and Alex is going to the moon.
We're going to flip our tune. We're going to change our tune. That just made me think that this would be a fun thing to play in some sort of team game, as a two-headed giant or team format, but two cooperative decks that are both built around this.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in a team game.
Yeah.
If you have two people
for it, we could both be generating a bunch of blockers somehow.
If you have two people devoted to generating tokens, the odds are you're not going to face two other people who are also both devoted to generating tokens.
At that point, all you have to really worry about is board wipes,
fireballs and shit like that. Yeah.
So play some blue to counter the Wrath of Gods.
Yeah. Blue green token generator Bubble Matrix.
Right.
Anywho.
No one take our idea.
Let's talk about your finance news. I think you just saw some spikes that were happening.
Yeah, I just saw one or two things I wanted to bring up because I actually wasn't familiar with them. Other people, this might not be new news to you. So, sorry, I'm looking for the link now. Okay, yeah.
Just give me some names.
Two things I saw were Metamorphose. This apparently, I wrote this to you before I realized that I guess this is another Don card. So, everyone's way ahead of me on this, and we know why it's spiking, obviously. But
Don's still going buck wild.
Yeah. But I didn't know this card, and I kind of like it, so I just learned this. It is 1 blue, 1 colorless, instant. Put target, permanent, and opponent controls on top of its owner's library. That opponent may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card from his or her hand into play. So you take something from play, stack it onto their deck, and then they get to put something from their hand, a permanent, into play. Risky a little bit, for sure. But I think, if you have a feel for the pace of the game and how things are going, there's definitely, opportunities to use this. I think it's kind of neat. And one thing I really liked was in the comments on this card, someone mentions a combo with it that I thought was pretty cool. Give me 1 second. Metamorphose.
Ankh of Mishra's on the board. You play a spell that returns all of their, so they have nothing in their hand. It's late game. You have 4 Ankh of Mishra's down, plus 4 copy artifacts.
Plus 4 copy.
You play a spell that sends all of their lands back to their hand. Then you metamorphose. Then they play a land from their hand because that's all they have, and then they die.
All right.
It says may play, never mind. Ruined. Deck ruined.
Well, look up the card Radiate. This is a card from Torment. It's a fairly high casting cost red instant.
Don't know this at all.
This lady's blowing up a bunch of dudes. She's like, kapow! And they're all flying through the air. This card's hard to explain, so we're going to have to read it once or twice, probably.
Oh, no. That might mean 5 times.
But it's kind of like a fork. So think about it kind of like a fork before we get into it. All right. Radiate is 2 red, 3 colorless. Instant. Choose target instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single permanent or player. So someone casts something, instant or sorcery, that just has a single target that is a permanent or a player.
Let's say a lightning bolt.
Yes. For each other permanent or player that spell could target, fork it, basically. Put another copy of that spell onto the stack. Each copy targets a different one of those permanents and players. So it's like, what? Oh, wait, what?
Nasty.
Yeah. So you cast a spell, and you're going to fork it for every available possible target that it could have. Now,
it's just a big casting cost.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're playing, well, I'm will interrupt you for a second.
No, go ahead.
You're playing a deck, let's say a go wide deck. Let's say we have our token generator decks out. I got 75 tokens on the board, 1/1s. Somebody casts a lightning bolt and a radiate at me.
Yeah.
They could eliminate every single 1/1.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually pretty on topic for what we were just talking about. But with Metamorphose, okay, you put a target permanent an opponent controls on top of their library. Then you radiate. So basically now you put all of their permanents on top of their library. And then they can put a permanent from their hand into play for every one of those, which will be fewer probably than they have in play. You know what I mean?
Probably.
You're going to play this when they have more permanents than they have cards in their hand, or very similar at least, because they might have some spells in their hand. But yeah, you combine the 2 cards together, and you take all their permanents onto the top of their deck, and then they get to play some stuff out of their hand.
The only bad thing is you need 7 mana to do it.
Yes. Only bad thing is you need 7 mana to do it, which made me think that I would want to build a blue-black-red deck so that I could use Dark Rituals to combo those 2 spells together.
But do you want to combo those 2 spells together earlier in the game? Because then at that point, your opponent's likely to have...
Yeah, you still want to do it later, but I'm just going to use the Dark Ritual later to make it easier for me to cast it late in the game.
Okay.
Do you think... I was going to ask this earlier about Dark Ritual. You were talking about splashing cards from different colors in. I'm always tempted to just splash Dark Ritual in even.
I don't splash for the writ.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I never did
understand
splash for the
clumsy because it's all 3 black, but if you play a lot of cards like this that have 3 colorless or a lot of artifacts, I would be tempted to put it in, decks just for the mana.
I just said I don't know why, but I've never splashed for the writ, but then you stated the exact reason why I've never splashed for Dark Ritual. It's 3,
I mean, I've never done it either, but I've thought about it. Once I start splashing black in for Dark Ritual, then I want to add other stuff too. Demonic Tutor. It's like, I'm playing black, may as well put a Demonic Tutor in.
Mind Twist.
Yeah. Start to see it. Out of control. But anyway,
Autocrat.
I only mentioned Metamorphose because I thought it was a little bit neat. It was new to me, and I like this combo with Radiate, which I thought was kind of cool.
Okay, interesting.
Second card on the list. This is another Baldur's Gate card, right? Did I forget? Am I wrong?
That sounded right to me. Alex, introducing more new frame modern cards into the Old Man Magic podcast
Yep.
ecosystem.
Well, I told you so I haven't gotten into. You have to dip your toe in a little bit here and there. There's too much to learn all at once, but the D&D sets at least have kind of like, a hook for me. I kind of care about the D&D.
You can talk about the new stuff. Yeah, I would encourage you to talk about the new stuff because you can learn about it and then you can tell me about it.
So I've mostly been focusing on like Forgotten Realms and Baldur's Gate, just kind of interesting.
I love this art.
This art's so wonky.
It's like it reminds me of who's the most famous like
Jazom?
No, the painter. He's like an old, I don't know if it's Renaissance. I'm blanking.
Oh, I know you mean who paints like hellscapes.
Yeah, the most twisted. You know what I'm talking about.
I was just reading about him a little while ago and I've already forgotten his name, but I know who you mean.
Kind of reminds me of a creature like buried in the back of one of his giant paintings. Anywho.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It has an interesting kind of like art style to it that's a little bit unique. This is called Nalfeshni. Is that how you would say it? Nalfeshni?
Hieronymus Bosch, I think, Alex.
Yes, that's it.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
How would I pronounce this? Nalfeshne.
Nalfeshni?
Nalfeshni is what I would say.
Yeah. This is like the time I tried to pronounce the Deli Dinger.
The Ledinger.
It was like the Dillinginger. What was that?
The Dillinger.
It was a sandwich. Where's that? Denny's or Perkins? The Deli Dinger.
I don't know.
The Lindinger. The waitress looked at me. The server looked at me. She was like, stupid.
It reminds me of the time when I called up. I'm having flashbacks. I'm having PTSD. Alex, you give me PTSD. When I was like 12 years old and I called up some magic store that had like an ad in the back of a magazine. And I asked them if they had a copy of Carcass. We were on the phone for like 5 minutes and they were trying to figure out what I was asking for. And I started describing what the card was. And I described Caracas and they laughed at me for minutes on the phone. This kid doesn't know how to pronounce Caracas. He doesn't know. Okay. How much longer are we going to do this for? Anyways.
I was on the phone. That reminds me of a story, Steve. I was on the phone back then when we were, 13. And it was someone I found on a Usenet post who was selling a card. And I ended up calling them on the phone. And I was like getting, I'm going to send you a money order and I'm getting the guy's address. And he was in Sarasota, Florida. And he's telling me his address. And the way he said it, it sounded like he said Farafota. I was like, that can't be right. I know there's a Sarasota, Florida. So I was like, I made him repeat it like 3 times. And every time he was like, Farafota. And I was like, well, I don't. So I wrote Farafota, Florida on the envelope and they got it there. Sarasota.
Oh, they got it there? I guess you have the zip code so they know.
But I always thought that guy must have gotten that like money order in the mail and been like, Farafota, what kind of idiot?
Maybe he thought you were making fun of his maybe a list or something.
Yeah, I thought that
wouldn't even be a list.
Ridiculing
Fair photo.
I feel bad. Well, he was like getting mad at me on the phone. I was asking him though. I was like, "Are you saying?" He's like, "Farafota." Okay, man.
Did you just ask him to spell it?
I think I did. That's the problem because I couldn't tell if he was saying F or S over the phone. Still, I was like,
"Spell it."
You saying F, and he's like,
F-A-R.
Huh?
Spell it. F-A-R.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, Nalfeshni. 1 red, 5 colorless creature, beast, demon. 4/6 flying. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this permanent.
I already got confused by the first sentence, Alex, because
a lot going on here.
Maybe I don't remember what exile was, but I thought once something
exile
was
removed from the game.
So how do you cast some? This must have been something that was introduced in the game after we first quit. We couldn't cast spells when they were in exile.
They never had anything when we played. It was just called removed from the game, and they never had anything. There might actually be one or two exceptions here because you had a few cards that could allow you to bring cards in from outside of the game. You know, maybe like anti cards.
You know, like Ring of like things people weren't allowed to play with.
that sort of thing. So it was sort of there, but they called it removed from the game, and then eventually they changed it to exile, which I think is weird because once you do that, excuse me, sir, you open up the opportunity for things to interact with exile. So it's no longer removed from the game now because you can bring it back in. But yeah,
it's just Graveyard 2.
Exile is Graveyard 2 now. It used to be removed from the game, and now it's the deeper Graveyard.
Graveyard 2, 6 feet deeper.
I like yes.
You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste. That only is important for creatures.
Yep.
And at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice is permanent.
Yeah.
So basically, all the creatures that my opponent Swords to Plowshared, I can bring back with haste.
Yeah. And any spells that were exiled too that you cast, you can wait.
You have to cap.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if it's if you cast like an instant or a sorcery that's been exiled from exile, you get to fork it. If you do it to a creature, you get to
it gets haste.
It gets haste, yeah, and then it dies. Complicated, but apparently, and I don't know why this is spiking. You can see this has gone up a few dollars recently.
Yeah, minor spike. Just people. It went from nobody knowing it existed to some people wanting to play it now.
Yeah. It's obviously being used.
So
I guess the key here to me, even though I don't know what's going on at all, is there's something else that lets you cast spells from exile happening. You know what I mean? There might be more cards that are now allowing you to cast cards from exile, and then you play this guy with them. I guess
we have to learn about what's going on in the exile world.
It's a little complicated. I don't know. I'm not sure the spike will last. He's 6 casting cost. You have to get him out in order to do that thing first, you know, and then you have to do whatever you're going to do to cast your spells from exile. And you have to get your spells into exile to begin with. So it's like a 3-part combo. I don't know. But it looks neat. It looks fun.
I like the art.
Yep. Art's neat. I like that it's 4/6. I like when creatures have like big chunky toughness.
He looks like a 4/6er.
There's certain ratios you just don't see as much. And a lot of like the high toughness ratios I feel like are, you know, absent from the game or at a low rate. I don't know.
He looks, I mean, he looks like a bigger toughness than power creature. Like you know, what was the very first ever UFC match? You remember the very first UFC match?
Like a Gracie versus
No, it was a kickboxer versus
sumo wrestler.
A sumo, yeah.
I remember there was one of the very earliest matches ever was like some skinny guy versus a big sumo guy.
Now Fashni is built like that fella.
I was just gonna ask, is that a boy demon or a lady demon?
I think it's a man. It's a man titties.
He just has
Here we go.
His man boobs.
Now Fashni reminds me of sumo wrestler Taylor Tooley. Man, this is quite an intro here we got.
They had so much generic intro in these early ones. Remember that? They did these like little like fighter intro videos.
Gerard Gordeau, he was a Savate fighter. And the fight ended pretty quick because he kicked Taylor Tooley in the mouth once and lost a bunch of it. And then he was like, I'm done with this. Is this too loud?
And they go.
Anyways, he is the build of now Fashni. This is a 4/6 fighter.
That's who that reminded you of.
Yeah, this is what I was bringing that up.
There'll be a lot of stalking.
A lot of stalking. Gerard Gordeau is a dirty fighter too. I think he was banned from a lot of places for serially eye gouging people. I think he actually blinded one of his opponents permanently by gouging his eyes so severely.
Well, back in the day when this was happening, this is
where he kicks him in the face. Oh, and then that's the end of the fight.
Just missed your teeth here.
His teeth got kicked onto the announcer's desk.
Were they like not wearing mouth guards back then?
No, there are no mouth guards. What are you, Alex? A pussy?
Oh yeah. Oh geez.
Anyways, his
No
build
mouth
is similar.
guards,
That's
no
the whole
weight
point. That's the whole point of this. It reminded me of Taylor Tooley. And that, I think, brings to the end our MTG Finance segment for the day. Alex. Let's move on to the final segment of episode 39, which is the final segment of every episode of the Old Man Magic podcast in 2023. It is the Old Man Magic Commander Corner. This is the segment where Alex and I build our decks. These are our first ever Commander decks. They are old frame only decks because that's mostly what we have. My commander is Jacques Levert, and my deck name is The Pump. The idea behind my deck is to play out a lot of green creatures to set up a horde of green creatures that I can attack with, and to pump those creatures. To pump the creatures, I have Jacques Levert, which gives all my green creatures +0/+2. I have Keza, which gives all my green creatures +1/+1. I have all sorts of spells that I can play to pump these creatures. I can pump with Giant Growth. I can pump with Invigorate. I can pump with Berserk. I can pump anything with my Power Matrix. Rancor is a creature enchantment that can pump my creatures. I can pump everything with Mirari's Wake. I can pump if I sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya. Last week, I added Armadillo Clunk.
I love
Cloak
Armadillo.
to potentially pump my Rith the Awakener and trample my Rith the Awakener that I can then use to generate Saproling tokens, which is the other theme of my deck, token generation. Alex, what do I generate tokens with, you ask? Deranged Hermit. Last week, I added Hazazon Tamar, which generates Sand Warrior tokens. Rith the Awakener will generate tokens if I damage my opponent. I can damage my own Saber Ants to generate tokens. I have dreams of using my tracker to ping my Saber Ants to generate 1/1 tokens that are then pumped +1/+1 by Keza and then +0/+2 by Jacques Levert. I can also pump with Wyoli Wolves. I can pump select 1/1s with Pendelhaven to make them 2/3s. Alex, I have a third theme to my deck. It is Trample. Rancor allows my creatures to trample. Armadillo Cloak allows my creatures to trample. I can give my creatures trample with Elvish Herder, Alex. I can discard a card from my hand and pay 1 colorless and 1 green and tap my Stampede Driver to give creatures trample. I forgot Saproling and Symbiosis and Spontaneous Generation when I was discussing my token generation theme. They also generate tokens. I can use Artifact Mutation and or Mutation to destroy my opponent's artifacts or enchantments and generate tokens. Those are the 3 themes of my deck so far. What am I adding today, you might ask, Alex?
What are you adding today?
Thank you. I'm just going to add some land, Alex. The next 2 weeks are going to be kind of boring for the pump. Today, I'm going to add some non-basic lands, and then next week, I'm just going to fill in basic lands. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not sure how many spaces I have left in my deck. So I want to fill out my mana base so that I'll know exactly how many spaces I have to slot in other cards. So today, I'm going to add in City of Brass.
Yeah.
Because I don't have City of Brass in here yet, and I'm going to want City of Brass in this deck. Any 3-color or more deck, I add City of Brass. I'm going to add my Chronicles printing because, not to brag, I do have Chronicles printings of City of Brass. Back in the day when Chronicles
could that
was
be
printed,
considered bragging?
Not to brag. Back in the day when Chronicles was printed and the prices of Arabian Nights cards dropped, that's when I should have started buying up Arabian Nights copies of City of Brass. But I didn't have any money. I was 12, 13
Boy, I wish
years
I'd
old.
bought some Arabian Nights Cities of Brass back then. Wow.
Reflecting Pool, I'm also going to add, Alex.
Yeah.
Another good non-basic lane for a multicolored deck. Any
Beautiful.
deck with 3 or more colors, I like to have a Reflecting Pool. I really enjoy this card. I liked it a lot. First time I saw it when it came out in Tempest, I played it back in the day. I'm still playing it 20-some years later.
Wonderful. I'm gonna have to add both of these cards to my deck eventually. I'm gonna have to do like a big land day coming up where I just like put 10 lands in because I have.
I mean, that's what my new this week and next week can be land day.
I won't do it today because that would be extra boring.
Wooded Foothills. Are you claiming that this is boring, Alex? What I'm doing right now?
No, it would just be boring if we both did it.
Next two cards I'm going to add: Wooded Foothills and Windswept Heath.
Okay.
These are cards I have literally never played with. I have never played with a fetch land. I've never cracked a fetch land
Either have
to
I.
fetch another land.
I've never played a fetch land either.
They were printed after we first stopped playing. Now, when we came back to Magic, we see everybody's playing these fetch lands all the time. They're in a lot of decks. They're in decks. I'm not even sure why they're in all the decks that they're in, but I know why I'm putting them in this deck. I know why you would put them in any deck that had dual lands, because you can use them to search for your dual lands, essentially. So Wooded Foothills and the Windswept Heath, the only two fetch lands that I own, have now made their way into the pump. That's it. That's it for this week, Alex.
All right. All right.
Now we're going to move on to Alex's deck.
My deck?
Last week,
Group Mud.
it was very exciting. Alex finally named his deck last week. For many, many weeks, it was named Alex. Now it is named Group Mud.
Alex.
He's considering naming it Mudhole, but I think it will remain Group Mud.
My deck is a defensive deck designed to be diplomatic and lead my opponents to attack each other and ignore me. I will have beneficial cards, a group hug type idea. I will have cards that bounce to discourage my opponents from attacking me. I will have defensive creatures. I will have creatures that grow over time, so that later on I will be able to do damage when they have forgotten about me. Yeah, and that's the basic idea. Today, Steve, what would you like to hear about? Would you like to hear about defensive or offensive creatures?
Let's go offense. You've been focusing on defense for weeks now.
I have. I'm gonna need some offense in here. I have Forgotten Ancient, okay, and I really like him because I like creatures that grow. One card I grabbed when I was, trying to pick up some of these reserved list and Four Horsemen cards that were spiking or coming down from spikes was Citadel Druid. I was like, this card's neat in Commander. It'll grow when people cast artifacts. I might still put one in here, but today, no.
Oh, I just did it.
You can leave him in there. I have one. Leave him in there. He'll go in there for now. I'm going to take something else out anyway. So, well, he's a bonus. He's a bonus today. Citadel Druid, the Monty Python Holy Hand Grenade Bearer guy.
Which did you watch? Did you watch yesterday? The priest deliver the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch to King Charles.
Oh, that's nice.
It was all over the internet. Pictures of it.
People making like memes of it, like relating it to that. Oh, that's funny.
Yes,
that's nice. I like it.
Like, did I call him Prince Charles or did I say King Charles?
I can't remember, but either way,
anyways, he's now King Charles.
Now he's King Charles.
Now King Charles.
Side note: Citadel Druid, by the way, Citadel spelled backwards is lunatic. I think I've mentioned that in the podcast before when I learned.
I think you did, but I forgot.
I think it's interesting. It's a little subtle thing they put in there. Driven mad by the fall of Argoth, the Citadel Druids found peace only in battle.
A deared lunatic. Okay.
Anyways, that wasn't the card I was going to put in here, but it fits in the theme with the Forgotten Ancient and the other two offensive creatures I'm going to add today. A little bit ago... Huh?
I said two. Wow.
Two. I got two. I'm going to need a couple. I'm going to need a few things that I can use end game and grow bigger over time. I think there's different ways I can do this. Obviously, I don't need creatures that grow bigger, but that's one strategy that I can take, and I think I'm going to go with it because I think it's kind of fun. We talked about Phantom Nishoba previously on the podcast. I'm going to add that saber-toothy, tigery, ghosty guy to my deck.
I love the Phantom Nishoba.
Pretty strong.
This guy might be waking his way into my deck Also, if he hasn't already, I don't believe I put him
Oh, yeah.
in.
He has a high casting cost, but okay, two things. With Forgotten Ancient, I can transfer +1/+1 counters onto other creatures. Okay, and since Phantom Nishoba discards counters to prevent damage to himself, I can repump him with my Forgotten Ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to go with him, and in a similar theme, I'm going to add Phantom Nantuko.
Don't know this guy. Quick question about Nishoba. I feel like I don't know how to play this card properly. I know I've asked this question before, and I've even like Googled it and looked up the answer and forgotten already. He comes in 7/7 with counters, 7 counters.
Yeah.
If damage is dealt to Phantom Nishoba, prevent that damage. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Phantom Nishoba.
Yeah.
If he's dealt 7 damage, do you remove 1 counter
Yes.
and prevent it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like for each 1 damage you want to prevent, you have to remove 1 counter
Yeah.
from the Nishoba.
It's all just for
That's what I thought. Okay.
it's a +1/-1 for all any damage, is my understanding.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Phantom, who's the next one? Phantom.
Nantuko.
I don't think I know this one.
He does a very similar thing. And again, like I said, with Forgotten
Yeah.
Ancient, I can like replenish these guys. You know, they can block, they'll lose their counter. Then Forgotten Ancient gives them a counter back. Phantom Nantuko,
from
I
Judgment.
like him. He's very reasonable. He's 1 green, 2 colorless. He starts off 0/0, but he comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters, so he's 2/2 trample to begin with. If damage would be dealt to him, you prevent the damage and remove a counter, but you can tap him to put a +1/+1 counter onto himself. So this guy will sit behind my walls and my protective enchantments, and every turn I'll make him bigger and make him bigger and make him bigger. And if I want, I can use the Forgotten Ancient to make him bigger, or use the Forgotten Ancient to make my Phantom Nishoba bigger. Block with them if I want, and they just lose they lose 1 counter. But they'll get bigger over the course of the game, especially this guy. He'll get bigger. And then later on, he'll be a big, nasty praying mantis guy.
Potential for a query on Ranger deck.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty neat. 3 big creatures were added today to Alex's deck called Group Mud. Not looking so huggy any longer, is it? I don't want a hug from this fella.
No.
I think that brings us to the end of the Old Man Magic podcast
We did.
today, Alex, right? Before we go, I do have one other thing I want to touch on. I forgot to bring this up during the finance segment, but I think it's good to bring it up here because it is a card that we talked about in one of our cycles when we went through the muses. It is a card that I added to my deck known as the Pump, one of the muses. It is Seedborn Muse. And when I was looking at the big movers in the market this past week, I saw Seedborn Muse from Legions up
Really?
8% on the interest
Good.
page. And I feel like it could just be a coincidence, but it also could indicate that we are becoming major influencers in the world of Magic the Gathering. And the 50 or so people who listen
They all bought
to
one.
our podcast may have gone out there and picked up a Seedborn Muse from Legions.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
I think this is a good sign for the Old Man Magic podcast.
I'm surprised how expensive that was. Did we talk about that when we brought the card up?
Yeah, it was definitely the most expensive.
Okay, yeah.
It was the most expensive one.
I just forget. Short memory.
But that's the end of the podcast today. Thanks everybody for listening.
Good
Do you
job.
have anything else to say? You have any words of wisdom to leave our listeners with, Alex? Not just basic words. They must be words of wisdom.
No,
Alex has no words of wisdom.
no, none.
Talk to you later.
Later.